can come up and you can be a counselor. I thought to myself, great, that's fine. Like, I did that for a summer. It's in my, it's in my DNA. I really liked it. And I thought, great, that'd be cool. And then I got another email a few weeks later saying that, okay, we have enough counselors, so you're not really needed as a counselor. And so you'll just be a volunteer. And I thought, that's fine. I love being up there. It's a great atmosphere. And then, a week or two after that, they told me that they needed a camp shepherd that week. And would I be willing to do that? Which was surprising. So I was going up there to do something that was comfortable for me, but then was called to do something I had never done before, and something that was so out of my experience. And to top it off, at that time I was dealing with my own issues of anxiety, and yet I was called to minister to these kids. I knew I had to rely on God for every word I spoke that week, because I'd never spoken to a whole group of middle school girls and boys before, let alone a group of middle school girls and boys who hadn't heard much about Jesus. That week was a challenge, but I found myself fully relying on God, and He granted me the words to speak. I don't know exactly what came out of my words, but that's the thing about week-long camps. You're only there for 1 week. But God provided all that I needed. I can honestly say that He prepared and equipped me to do that work, because I could not have spoken those words myself. And I could not have had the strength to do that much preparation and speaking if it wasn't for God. I could have given excuse after excuse for not being a camp shepherd that week. But like it says in Luke 1:37, for nothing is impossible with God. All through the Bible, Jesus uses people who could have given so many excuses for not doing their ministry. King David, he did some pretty bad things. Moses, who just plain gave a lot of excuses. Job, who lost everything and could have lost his faith in God. The disciples, who were just some average Joes, and said some really silly things sometimes. And the list goes on and on. I am so glad that we can trust that God will bring us through and use our words and actions for His glory. The third thing I'd like to pull out of this text is that Jesus was sent to proclaim hope, and we should proclaim that hope as well. Jesus was sent to proclaim freedom for the prisoners. This could be literal prisoners, or those who are spiritually in prison. He was sent to release people from whatever holds them down. He is that release to those who accept Him. Jesus was also sent to recover sight for the blind. He is to open the eyes of people so that they can see the light that comes out of darkness. And finally, He is to release the oppressed and proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. This is in reference to the year of Jubilee that was spoken of a lot in the Old Testament, and is, in fact, a whole other really interesting topic and sermon in itself. But if you look at these words, you see that if applied to us, we've got a lot of work to do. It's a big job description. I want to read to you now one thing that really stuck out to me while going through this Undaunted series. It's the introduction of the series, and it's Christine telling her wake-up moment of the evil that lurks in this world. She was at a safe house in Greece, face-to-face with 14 girls who had just been rescued from sex trafficking industry. Christine was face-to-face with girls filled with fear, pain, and crushed spirits. She says, one of the women, Sonia, looked straight at me and asked, "Why are you here?" I did my best to tell her about the one who had rescued me from my pain, torment, and broken past. I communicated the amazing story of God's love and explained that Jesus was the one who could bring forgiveness, peace, joy, kindness, and grace to the darkest of places and most broken of hearts. I explained that He wants to set us free from physical, emotional, and spiritual dungeons. I tried to help her and the other women understand that God is so good, and He not only offers us a new beginning, but wants to use us to be His agents of hope, forgiveness, and grace to others who need to be rescued. That's why I'm here. That's why I've come, I explained. Sonia's eyes filled with tears, and she looked intently at me and asked the question that still haunts me to this day. Then why didn't you come sooner? I did my best to answer a question that can't be adequately answered. Most importantly, I explained to Sonia and the 13 others that I would do everything I could to help women like them. I promised that I would tell their story to anyone who would listen. I read that and just thought to myself, what a powerful story. And what a powerful yet simple question from that girl. It's a question that can be applied to us today. Why didn't you come sooner? We all know there's so much pain in the world. We see it around us in family and friends. We all know there are so many injustices in the world. We heard about it. We see it in travels to different countries and states. We read about it in the news. But the good news is that we can and we are called to do something about it. Even if you have a full-time job, if you have no job, if you are retired, if you have 3 jobs, you still have a higher calling and a job to do. We are to ask God to make clear our own calling and way to reach the broken, and we are to pursue that calling without feeling daunted. Christine Caine is compelled and passionate to rescue modern-day sex slaves. Maybe you're interested in her A21 campaign or others like it and strive to donate money on a regular basis. Maybe you're passionate and have a heart for the food pantry. Maybe you're called to and excited about reaching your literal neighbors. Maybe you have a calling to a whole other state or country to do God's work. Whatever the case, we are prepared and we are called. God will fill in the blanks of what we are not sure of. So we're called to speak the good news to those who are not like us. And we know that God prepares us and equips us. And this preparation happens as soon as we accept Christ. If there is anyone here that has not accepted Jesus into your lives, I pray you do soon. Ask anyone in this room about their relationship. And if you didn't, there's a prayer ministry afterwards that you can talk to someone about that. But with Jesus in your heart, it's a wild and blessed ride. And finally, just as Jesus was sent to proclaim hope to the poor and oppressed, we should proclaim that same hope that we find in Jesus. We live in a broken and exhaustingly sad environment. But the good news will not spread itself to the broken around us. God wants you, and you're hired.
Thank you, Rachel. There are all those challenges. Let's take our blue worship hymnals and turn to number 366. God of grace and God of glory, on thy people pour thy power. Let's stand and remain standing for the benediction. Number 366. Oh, God of grace and God of glory, on thy people pour thy power. Crown thine ancient church's story, bring her bud to glorious flower. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the facing of this hour, for the facing of this hour. Lo, the host of evil round us scorn thy Christ, assail his ways. From the fears that lie